What's going on, Eagles Nation? This is your boy, AK Eagles, and this is the Eagles Uncensored podcast. And with me today, I have a special guest, my guy, Gatecity Sports. It is an honor having you on my show, man. I've been trying to get you on here for the last couple weeks, and I understand you're very busy, so I appreciate you taking the time to come on with me.
Yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate you having me on. For y'all that don't know me, guys, my name is Steve. So, hey, man, I'm happy to be here, man. Happy to talk a little bit of Birds football.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? It's awesome that you actually came on now because now we actually have something to talk about. So I'm happy you kind of put it off for a little bit, because now we have 3 days we can talk about.
Yeah.
What's
What's
going
up,
on,
big
big
face?
play?
Just saw a Philly Girl 76. What's up?
Definitely. How you guys doing? Thank you for joining in. Appreciate you. And don't forget, hit that like and hit that subscribe button. At 200 subs, giving away that vintage 1994 Eagles blanket that I have. I had that stream last night and showed everyone. So, definitely get in the drawing now while you still can. So, I'm going to start this out, bud, with two questions I always start everyone out with who, for the first time is what made you an Eagles fan and who's your favorite Eagle of all time?
What made me an Eagles fan? Well, Philly Girl 76 will understand this part because we come from like the same exact area. I was born in Newcastle County, Delaware. More specific, I was born in the town of Newcastle. So just outside of Wilmington, Delaware, man. It's just part of your identity. I mean, there was no other options, man. My dad's a Birds fan. Both my brothers are. My sister is. Like, you're a Birds fan if you come from that area, or it's going to be a rough life. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, I grew up in the area, man. It's what pretty much made me a Birds fan. In terms of my favorite player, man, that one's pretty deep, man. Because I cover a lot of years now, man. I'm 2 years away from pushing that big 4-0, bro. Here's the thing.
I'm not too far behind
you. I remember the Reggie Whites. I remember the Clyde Simmons, the Seth Joyners, the Jerome Browns, Andre Waters. I remember all those guys. I was like 10-ish, 11-ish. Andre Waters always kind of held a special place for me just because, like, not only did he play for the Eagles, but he became a coach at St. Augustine's College, and it's a HBCU school that's down in Raleigh. So, unfortunately, that's where his life ended. I was always a big Andre Waters fan. But outside of that, man, I'd probably say that Brian Dawkins, huge on my list, man. I was also, Troy Vincent, Bobby Taylor, those guys I was big fans of. Eric Allen's an all-time great. And then I'll say guys like, like the 2000s guys. You have your Hugh Douglases and those type of guys, your Carlos Emmons, all those type of players, man. Like, it spans a long time, man. But I'd probably say the player that got me involved was Randall Cunningham. Randall Cunningham was like that's who I pretended to be in my room when I was a kid. I was Randall Cunningham. It was the fourth quarter, 2 minutes. That's what really got me in.
Yes, no, I 100% agree. That was definitely my favorite player, and that's who got me into being an Eagles fan. Randall Cunningham was definitely the guy I sat down in front of the TV to watch every Sunday, for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, you know what? Let's talk about this real quick, and you're definitely the guy to get the opinion on here. Thoughts on Carson Wentz and the injury? I was gonna bring it up, so let's just pop it off right now and get it out of the way.
I don't know the extent of the injury. I know it's a foot-related injury. I know he said that he felt something when he was throwing. You gotta, when it comes to the foot, man, it could be nothing. It could be a sprain. It could be something very simple. It could be a Liz Frank. If it's a Liz Frank, big deal. That's a big deal. Like that's a second-round pick for the Eagles if that happens, more than likely. Didn't seem like they were that concerned about it. It seemed more precautionary more than anything. But it was an indefinite injury, so it's like that seems a little bit more drastic than precautionary when you say it's indefinite, meaning you don't really have a timetable at this point for the injury. So I'm assuming the reason they're calling it indefinite is because they probably don't have the MRI back yet to really know exactly what's going on. So I think is it a bruise? Is it a sprain? Are we looking at Liz Frank? Like, what the heck just happened? He said something didn't feel right in the foot, but he was still okay. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I had a Liz Frank injury myself, and I knew it. I felt it, man. Like, my foot ballooned. It was bad. Like, it hurt bad. Like, I couldn't even drive the car home. Like, my wife had to drive. So I'm assuming it's
Yeah.
not a Liz Frank, but I don't know.
Well, and I've always brought this scenario up to a lot of people, and I want to get your opinion on it. I always said that it's only going to take one injury or one bad game for the media over there to be like, oh, well, did Indy really win this trade now that he's injured? Or what I'm saying? They'll spin it
Yeah.
to a negative effect, and we all know his mental aspect. It makes him start to kind of tumble a little bit.
Yeah.
Is this where we start to see Carson unfold in India a little because of this, especially if they start to, pick at him a little bit?
I think that it's hard to say, just because I don't think that Indianapolis's media circus is quite Philly's. So I don't think it's going to be to that extent. So I don't know that it'll get to him like that. I do think there's going to be a part of him that obviously is going to pay attention to the national media narrative. I think the national media narrative is the more dangerous narrative, because the narrative has already been spread, which Philly Girl pretty much insinuated down below, which is, these injuries go back to college. Like, Carson's always been incredibly talented, but he's also been very prone to injuries as well. And that went back to, I think he had some rib stuff in college that caused him to miss some games. Look, I mean, I don't think Carson's been as injured as people think in the NFL. I think it's, they shut him down in 28. I mean, that's a vicious hit anytime that occurs. But, to the point you're making, I mean, the national media is already spinning it that he's only had 2 healthy seasons. So, I don't know how he's going to respond, man. I have no clue about his mental state. I don't know what, the thing is like, I don't know the full details that happened here in Philadelphia. So it's really hard to say. Like, the one thing you can say is that there has to be some back and forth. It can't completely be Carson. It can't completely be the front office. It has to be some combination of things that went wrong here. And I would have been more inclined to believe that maybe it was just Carson being a bit of a diva, being, the weight on the shoulders of being the first FCS quarterback selected in the top 5, all that stuff. I mean, that was a big deal when Carson got selected. He was the first real small school quarterback to go that high.
Yeah.
And I think that I thought some of that was kind of weighing on him. There's a lot of burden, a lot of, to that. But then I kind of we saw what unfolded from the offseason. It's like, well, you know what? This owner meddles a little more than he should. Or not, I used to think it was mostly Howie, and I do think Howie's responsible for some of the bad contracts, but you got to give him credit for the good contracts too, in the way that he can manipulate the cap and the things he can do to I mean, he put out a masterclass this year of how to fix your own mess ups, and I'll be frank, I'm not giving him a pass. He created the entire circumstance. I mean, he basically, let a bunch of alligators into the room, walked up and said, hey, you know what? I have an alligator wrangling service I can help with. Like, that's pretty much what he did. But I mean, he did, he did get everything under control. It's a circus around that, man. I mean, it just seems like we can't escape Carson Wentz. Like, he's not even here. And it still feels like we can't escape it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in all honesty, we don't technically escape him until the end of the year. I mean, until this pick is in our hands, he's technically tied to us. So it's something that's going to be talked about, because this whole year depends on him. So in a way, he's relevant still.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's the thing.
I just found it funny that he's already injured, and it's only like day 3 for them, or day 2, whatever it was.
Yeah, end of day 2. It was end of day 2. It occurred apparently. Yeah, I mean, it happened fast. I mean, it feels like maybe teams are speeding up the tempo a little bit of practices, or maybe that's just the way that Frank Reich, does his practices, and maybe that got instilled into Nick Sirianni, because we're using the sample size of Indianapolis, we're using the sample size of Philadelphia, and of course that's 2 guys coming from the same coaching tree, pretty much. The thing that it's crazy though, because the earlier coverage was they had an all-out blitz against Carson earlier. in camp, and that was dominating the media cycle with him throwing off his back foot 70-some yards. And it's funny, like, how fast 24 hours shifted the entire narrative. It's crazy how fast that narrative just got shifted.
And that's one thing I said yesterday. I will never deny the kid his talent. He's got an amazing arm. He's 6'5". He's the perfect size for a perfect quarterback. But man, he is fragile. Like he's proven to be fragile. I'm sorry to say it.
I think there's a lot that goes on with that though too. Is when you deal with a guy that's that big, I don't know if that makes you more susceptible to certain injuries. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the thing. I don't know if there's a susceptibility to being that kind of frame, because he's not a small leg guy either. Like, it sounds so wrong, but he's a very long strider as a quarterback, because he's mostly lower, not upper. You know what I mean? Like he's built in a way that would make you be concerned about a pocket presence. And I think that he's always been, it's strange because he's always kind of struggled with that himself. Like he's never really been completely comfortable operating from within the pocket. He's always wanted to move the pocket, roll it, and he wants. Carson wasn't really in favor of the faster progressions and developing, and he wanted to stretch the field more. I think that some of that had to do with just a desire of people saying that, oh, well, your yards per average were low, and I think he let people get in his heads, which goes to your point about may not be physically soft, but mentally. Something about him doesn't seem to have the ability to just know people say crap. You know what I mean? Like, people say stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have, like, he made the lie up that I don't even read it. I don't even see it. Like, bull crap. Even if you don't, your family does. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like,
you're hearing it somehow. Some way, somehow it's getting to you.
Yeah.
And actually, no, Vic, no, I was just thinking that myself. In a way, this injury proves that it was a good deal on our part. I mean, because this could be us right now.
Well, it could have been a nightmare scenario. Could have been a nightmare scenario where they named him the starter, may have had to do something to guarantee his contract even further because he wasn't going to take, it could have been a really bad, especially if this turns out to be a Liz Frank. If it turns out to be a Liz Frank, then we avoided a huge disaster.
Yeah, isn't that like an 8-game?
It can be an entire season depending on the severity of it. Liz Franks are really tough to come back from, man, because like you think you're back, but then like just you can't, like, you just can't put weight on your foot the same way anymore. Like, even to this day, man. To this day, if I go outside and and I'm out there, like it's not the reason why I kind of stopped coaching, but it did become slightly more difficult for me to coach as a result of sustaining this Frank injury, because I'll be out there, I'm trying to teach proper mechanics, I'm trying to teach a kid how to throw the ball, foot placement, and there will be times where my foot would plant and it just wouldn't be right, man. It was like I didn't have like no muscle in my, like, just everything went numb, and like I'm like dipping down. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that ain't right. Like, it just, you have these phantom things that come from Liz Frank injuries. Like, it's a really weird injury to have happen. And for Carson's sake, I hope that I don't wish any ill will on the young man, but I hope that's not what happened. But that is one of the things that rolled through my mind, because I didn't hear a location other than the foot. I heard the foot. I don't know if it's an ankle. I don't know if is it in the area of a Liz Frank, like the top of your foot. Is it just a bruise? Is it, I did been kind of silent on that end of things.
The only thing that I've ever done to my foot was the little bone that runs from your toe to the middle of your foot. What is that? The metacarpal or the
metatarsal?
Metatarsal. I snapped that one time, and that was very painful. Yeah. So that was my only foot injury I've ever had, and I know how painful that was. So, I can only imagine what you're talking about. Like, that does not sound fun. But and in all honesty, that's just another way Carson Wentz can stick it to us.
Yeah, right. It kind of feels like he's still kind of getting the win on us.
Yeah,
No matter
a
what,
little
he's
bit.
getting a contract. He's getting his money. He's getting, it is what it is, man. Like, and I have a lot of Colts fans that kind of came on the channel after the trade, and like, they still ask some questions here and there about Carson. And like I told him, I said, I think the majority of the fan base doesn't necessarily wish him ill will or anything like that. We recognize the guy's very talented, but it just wasn't working in Philadelphia. It just, for our sake and for Carson's sake, man, that was a divorce that once it happened, once you reflect back on it, it was like, I don't see how there was any other way that this was going to get resolved other than the way it got resolved. Like, there's just no way. Like, even if you kept him, and this is why I always told people when they talked about Carson not wanting to compete, I don't think that's what was happening. I don't think it was an element of competition. I think the way that Carson viewed it through his agent was, once you've already drafted a kid in the second round, the doubt has already been instilled in the mind of the front office. So no matter, you're going to have to play at a really high level to warrant a third contract, because now you're going to be in your 30s on that third contract. It was very unlikely he was going to see a third contract. I think he saw the writing on the wall. And I think that's why, even when they were trying to commit to him, he was kind of like, yeah, you're committing to me for how long? How long? You get what I'm saying? Like, I think he just saw the writing on the wall, and I just think it was the best move for both parties. I think both parties needed the separation, honestly. I mean, I don't, like I said, everyone asked me about Jalen Hurts. I don't know if Jalen Hurts is the guy or not, but I do know the kid works his tail off. I know the young man seems to take to coaching very well. He seems to actually give a crap. He seems to look. I mean, since we're on the topic, switching it over to the Eagles, Nick Sirianni stopped practice today. Like, he got animated. He was angry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, can you imagine if Carson's your quarterback and you have to do that? You get what I'm saying? Like, that's a different story, right? Yeah. If Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback and you have to do that, now you can make the argument Aaron Rodgers is probably not going to make a mistake that causes you to need to stop practice. But you get what I'm saying? Like, the more dominant the personality, the harder it is. When I say dominant, it's probably not the right way of saying, because I do think that Jalen Hurts has a very magnetic personality, but I don't know that I'd say it's a dominant personality per se.
No, I get what you're saying. He doesn't have to be right all the time. He's willing to open up his mind and learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think he's the right guy, and it wasn't because of. From my understanding, is the practice wasn't stopped because of Jalen Hurts. Just to clarify that, guys, I don't want anyone thinking that's what happened. From my understanding is that Nick Sirianni got, at one point, he got really, really ticked off with Huntley. I think it was Huntley. Huntley did not run the route correctly, and Nick just lost it and started yelling out details. And like, I mean,
that's a good thing.
Like, yeah.
I'm okay with that. I have no issue with that whatsoever, man. Like,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's, what can you do in the situation? Like, if you're a coach, like, and guys aren't following the details of what you're telling them to do, like, it was my frustration, because I used to be I was a teacher. That's how I got into coaching. I was a teacher. I got into coaching, honestly, before I was teaching, but like, coaching at a level to where I'm dealing with kids and I'm being asked to do scouting, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a coach, man, and guys don't follow detail, like, it makes you look bad as the coach. I get it. I get it from Nick Sirianni's standpoint, which is like, hey, man, if we can't do the small things right, and as a teacher, it's like when a kid doesn't understand a concept or a topic and you move on because the pacing guide says you need to move on to the next topic. How did that help anybody? They don't. Now they're going to, every time you keep advancing, they're missing little parts to help them understand the next thing. If you're a coach, I get it. I get shutting it down. Like, okay, like, yo, clearly we need more film time. We need more individual drills. We need a lot more here, because you're missing details. You're missing the details of what I'm asking you to do. So, I mean,
oh, sorry. Go ahead, bud.
No, I'm saying it's good to see a coach that cares to that extent, that I think there's a fine line you have to walk with that, right? Like there's the Chip Kelly version of it to where you're just an a-hole. And I think Nick is, you know what I'm saying? Nick's a little bit more like, hey, look, man, I'm not trying to come at you personally, but like, if we're going to win, if we're going to be successful, if we're going to beat the odds, these are the kind of things that cannot happen.
Yeah.
We got to be in the right spots. And think about it. How many times because I remember talking to people and people kept asking me, why in the world is Wentz missing so many throws to the flats? I'm like, number one, his feet aren't being set right. But number two, you heard people, there were analysts kept saying, Miles Sanders is not in the right spot. He's not getting to the right depth. That's part of the problem. If Doug and if these guys were doing their job and getting these guys to the right spot, you know what I mean? Then you could, it's in the details. It's in those little details about your depth of where you're supposed to be as a player. And I mean, there were things like that were happening. And it wasn't just last year. I mean, 2019 was the first year I really noticed it. Like simple chemistry issues to where, Miles doesn't seem to know to be on a play. Wentz isn't quite getting his feet set right. I mean, these are just little fundamental things. It's like, this shouldn't be happening. This, not at the NFL level. Like this is high school level mistakes.
Yeah, well, see, and that's why I actually sat and watched the mic'd up with the Singleton, the running backs coach, and I remember watching that, and I remember sitting there, and he would always be pinpointing. He's like, hit your marks. He's like, step with your foot, shove off, go. And he'd be like, don't turn it too wide. He's like, no, just cut it straight, go. So I like that he's focusing on that. I like that they're focusing on running correct routes because they understand running correct routes is what makes you successful.
Yeah, and that's Jamel Singleton's an interesting one just because of his connection back to Cincinnati. That makes a lot of sense with Giovanni Bernard. They had a few guys, that makes you think that he's a really good fit for the style and the system. I hated losing Deuce Staley. I thought Deuce was one of the better coaches we had here, but it just seemed like Deuce had gone as far as he was going to go within the organization. So, if he's going to advance and become a head coach one day, he's got to get those outside opportunities. So, I mean, it sucks losing Deuce, but I am kind of glad to see Jamel Singleton. From what I've watched, what I've observed, he definitely seems to be a top-notch coach. Like, I understand why he was giving the designation and the title as the assistant head coach. So, I mean, makes sense.
So I got to ask you then, would you say because we let Deuce go out of I can't say everyone, but out of all the people that is he the best next person up to kind of take over for Deuce, like to fill his shoes, so to speak? Or could there have been someone better?
You could always make the argument of there being someone better out there, but I thought Jamel Singleton was a fair signing. I thought that was a fairly good signing.
Okay.
I mean, no one's perfect. Everyone has their little glitches. I do think Jamel Singleton is probably much better at preparing these guys in the passing game. And I thought that Deuce was a master of developing technique when it comes to the running game. But, I mean, they both have experience. They both been, Deuce, long-term player, and came up the old school way, intern into an assistant, came up the right way. I mean, and Jamel's been around for a while too. I mean, he's done a little college coaching. He's done some NFL coaching. He's been around for a little
while. Yeah, hey, I really want to ask you, like, okay, so over these first 3 days, we've kind of seen the offense a little bit. First day was kind of shaky. Second day, like you said, got better, and then today, like everything was really good.
Yeah.
Now I heard a lot of. Can you clarify this for me? I've heard a lot of people say that touchdown to Smith was only a 40-yard pass, but then you read and there's people out there saying it's an 80. So was it an 80? And then I've even seen one where it's a 66. So what was it?
Unfortunately, we don't have the video footage to confirm it, but from what I understand, the reports I saw from the guys that were physically there, they said it was 40 some yards, but they don't know the exact distance. So, whether it was closer to 50, they know it was 40, over 40, basically.
Okay.
It was a play to which basically what ended up happening was he split the coverage between Kevon Wallace and Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson got himself a little bit out of position. Steven Nelson's not the biggest guy, man, and you look at a guy like Devontae Smith, and Devontae Smith is deceptively fast. He's not a burner like Rager is. Rager's a straight burner when he turns it on.
Mm-hmm.
Devontae's a little bit more of a smooth, just effortless, and he's got that really wide span that he runs with. And he's a lanky guy. I mean, he's a dude that's got like almost 77-inch, wingspan. Like, he's a more lanky, longer receiver than people realize. He's just very light. He's only 100, probably 65-ish, somewhere in that area. I heard that his game. I heard that he does gain a little bit for games. I've heard that he'll be around the 170 something for games. But to be honest with you, as the season goes on, normally you lose weight, you don't gain it. So I don't know. I mean, that's I've tried so hard to get someone from the strength and conditioning, to get somebody on the channel to talk, because I would love to pick their mind. I want to ask them some questions about just the particulars of the way that, a body, how does this body hold up to the NFL season? Like, when we see these things and they say a guy's 289 pounds, how much that is pure? I would love to have someone come on the channel and talk with me and let me pick their brains about it, talk to them about sports science. And it's hard though, man, because when you work for the organization, there are hurdles for media. And it's weird that we're considered media. I was like, we're really not media, man. Like, I don't have a publication. I don't have, I just have a YouTube channel,
I mean, does that concern you then? I mean, does his weight ultimately concern you?
Not now, not as now. I mean, look, he was the same weight in college against some of the better corners that got drafted over the past 2 years, and the guy had the best. He had the best rating against man coverage of any receiver coming out last year. He had a 96 grade. I think he was 4 percentage points higher than Jamar Chase against man coverage, who was the second highest graded player. So, I mean, he's beat it. I mean, he's going to have to, the NFL guys are going to be, he got the business from Slay. Slay gave him the business on day one. And, look, I mean, he seems to be similar in the personality to Jalen Hurts, to where he faced adversity and he didn't back down from it. He wanted to learn. Okay, I got taken to school by this dude. I don't want this to keep happening. How do I beat this? Started talking to Slay, started talking to, Moorhead and the receiving coaches. And, probably I'm pretty sure Patullo's working with him. So, I mean, he seems to have the right makeup for it. So for me, the NFL is so protective now. I mean, if this was 15 years ago, yeah, I'd be concerned. But the way the NFL is kind of shaped today, not as much. Not as much, because there's a lot of protection. You can say the guy's going to get his clock cleaned at some point. Maybe he does. That's also a penalty in today's game.
Yeah.
You can't have guys like B-Dawk out there just taking your head off.
Yeah, no. And that's something, I found funny yesterday too when that happened. I kind of sat back and laughed a little, because everyone was kind of questioning the Steven Nelson. They were like, "What are you doing?" Well, I don't know if you heard it or not, but they were kind of being harsh on him. And it's like, yeah, but is that not why we drafted this guy, to do exactly what he just did? And if he's out there burning somebody with 7 years experience, then hey, that's a good thing, right?
Right. And the other thing I would ask is, did this happen on, and I don't know the answer, did it happen on 7-on-7 or 11-on-11? If it was on 7-on-7, that drill is set up for the offense to beat the defense. Everything is in the offense's hands. Remember how good Hightower and those guys looked training camp last year on 7-on-7s. There's a reason, you know what I mean? Like, that drill is made for the offense to be successful. To me, we really won't know much until the pads go on. When the pads go on, we're going to separate the men from the boys, to put it, in that kind of terminology. Yeah. And I think that's Monday from what I heard. Mike told me Mike said that he heard it was going to be Monday. So I heard it, that's what I heard, is Monday is when the pads go on.
So, we'll stay on the offense here real quick, man. I have, everyone talks about left tackle. Okay, everyone does. And like I said, you're the stat guy. Now, granted, there isn't much stats for Dillard to go on, but there is for Mailata. You know, um,
Sure.
in my opinion, it's no doubt Mailata for me as starter for left tackle. In the 5 years that it's taken him to learn this game and the knowledge that he's gained and the improvement that he's had, everyone's calling him Stoutland's best project ever. So it's like, and he's a freak athlete, and he's 6'8". He would be a great left tackle for Jalen Hurts. And just all around, like, I've already think he's, if not as good or better than Dillard. So in my eyes, it's a no contest for me. But what do you think? And also the thing I had too was, if Mailata beats Dillard, and I threw this question out, do we trade Dillard then? Because do you really want a first round draft pick to be your backup?
Um, that's a tough one because I think what you hope is that no matter who wins the competition, it's relatively close.
Yeah.
Because probably the way that the Eagles would love to view this is that you're not going to keep. I love Lane. Lane's not going to be here that much longer. You'd like to probably move Mailata over to right tackle and have Dillard be your left tackle if he can hold up and perform. We'll have to see how Dillard responds. So we had 2 days that I've seen definitive notes on. Day one, it seems like Dillard didn't have too many big mistakes. But day two, he ran with the second team. And if I'm correct, that put him up against Derek Barnett. Derek Barnett is a much more powerful pass rusher than Josh Sweat is. So that's my fear. And I don't know any of this to be factual because there's no video footage. So to really consult and see the footwork, see exactly what move was Barnett using to beat him. I do know that Barnett is far more likely to bull rush you than Sweat is. Sweat's more of a speed guy. Sweat's more speed to power. But I will say this, when you look at Derek Barnett, this is a guy that was a first round pick too. This is a guy that injuries have really stunted Derek Barnett because he's had moments where he was pretty good. In 2018, he had a fairly good season before, everything. And then 2019, it was very disappointing. 2020 was not ideal. I mean, he just was never really right in the 2020 season. So, like, it's really been since the end of 2017 and that first phase of 2018 where we felt good about Derek Barnett. It looked like he was on the right path. And then we saw the injuries mount. We saw, something just wasn't right with Derek Barnett in 19 and then in 20. Like, it's kind of like, okay, like, how can we stop this thing from sliding out of control? So, I mean, it's hard to say, man. Like, when you look at left tackle, man, Mailata is very flawed in terms of the fundamentals. I'll be honest with you. He gets away with a lot of physical talent. There were quite a few times that Jalen Hurts got pressured from the pocket that was Mailata giving up leverage. Now, you can make an argument that some of that has to do with there were a few times that, I've talked to guys like Jalen Williams, who's, he played collegiately on the offensive line, and he said in his opinion, yes, Mailata he did have a flaw, there was flawed technique, which did cause him to get beat, but there were simpler adjustments that could have been made by the quarterback to where Mailata could have gained back leverage again, and the play would have been fine. It was more, but then we found out real quickly. It was released by Merrill Reese, said that he heard that Doug Peterson instructed Jalen Hurts to get rid of the football anytime he felt pressure. Now, was that word for word what he said? I don't know. But there seems to be some indication that some form of direction was given to Jalen Hurts to speed things up, which that makes a tough assessment, man. That's a tough assessment. But if you ask me who I think is going to win the left tackle battle, my money would be on Mailata. My money would be on Mailata to win it just off of physical talent. I'm just hoping that Dillard can gain back some stuff and can show that he's a legit NFL tackle. And then maybe we can start cutting down some of this roster, some of the more expensive veterans, have a Dillard at left tackle, have Mailata at right tackle, have some pieces here and there. I mean, Now the other side is they could trade him. They could trade him and bounce Driscoll out to right tackle, have Mulata at left tackle. You still need a guard. I don't know how much longer Brandon Brooks is going to be around. So you'd have to see. Once you do that, you kind of have to play around a little bit with it. The kid from Buffalo, he could be a sneaky guy that could potentially make it. I'm not going to say that's a lock. Matt Pryor should beat him out, but Matt Pryor wasn't exactly impressive last year either. I thought Matt Pryor played better as a tackle last year, left tackle, than he did at right guard. Let that sink in.
I actually really like how you went with that because I've always thought Driscoll is going to be Lane's successor. I just something deep down inside of me somewhere says that's what's going to happen. Now I actually believe Herbig would make a pretty damn good guard. Whether that's replacing Brooks or whether that's replacing, say, Malu, either or. Now, the one guy that does intrigue me, and I don't think I'm going to say his name correctly, but is it Jurek, the center?
Driga, I know who you're talking about. Luke.
Draga or whatever. Because if Stoutland can actually coach this man up, what they could do after the season if Kelsey retires is you could literally do Mailata, Dickerson, Urig, and then Herbig, and I guess Johnson would be here next year, but you get what I'm saying. That's how the young line would be, dude. Your 2 6'8" dudes are on your left side. That's pretty awesome.
Well, that's the tough part is if you look at the Eagles roster. Let me just go through real quick. You try to project what the Eagles were thinking when they made certain moves to certain guys. So, Owosika, Coyote, Owosika, I think. Guys, don't ever trust me to pronounce someone's name. Look it up. Trust me. The kid from Buffalo, highly rated, really good run defender. He played left tackle. He's probably going to get bounced inside as a guard. He's a guy to kind of watch out for. Brandon Brooks he's a great one, just like Lane Johnson. But who knows how much longer is left there? Andre Dillard's a big question mark. Jack Driscoll. We got. Take a look. Nate Herbig. I think Nate Herbig is definitely on the team. I think that they like the way Nate Herbig has come around. I think he definitely impressed them last year. You got Lane Johnson, Luke Driga, how would you say his name?
Yeah.
Kelsey, of course. Jordan Mulata.
Sorry, you got Brown as well, right? But he's on the injured list right now.
Yeah. Sua Peta, but Sua Peta, I don't know that Sua Peta is going to make it. You got Pierschbacher, who's played in the league before, but he's another young center guard type. I don't know if he's going to really get in the mix or not, but it's too early to say. You got Matt Pryor. Matt Pryor should be in the mix, but I don't know that he's a lock, to be honest with you. Isaac Seumalo. Then you got Brett Toth. I think Brett Toth is a no. Casey Tucker, probably a no. Some of those guys look like just camp bodies. Landon Dickerson, of course. LaRaven Clark, who's on the PUP list.
Yeah, that's who I meant.
Yeah. So, and you have LaRaven Clark. LaRaven Clark can play guard or tackle. So, to me, LaRaven Clark would make a ton of sense if you don't carry a Matt Pryor. You don't carry Matt Pryor, then a LaRaven Clark makes sense. LaRaven Clark still had a lot of similar struggles. Big physical guy. Massive. This guy, LaRaven Clark, is massive. This is a big dude, like well over 80-inch wingspan. This is a huge dude, man. He's a big dude, but he struggled a little bit in pass pro. To be honest, he had some difficulties. Matt Pryor's another one of these guys, big dude. You're talking. These guys are like 37-inch arms plus in terms of their reach, man. Like these are massive human beings. Those guys are. I mean. It's tough, man, when you look at this roster because, Andre Dillard, the other side to that is if he can't even be competitive, if he can't really earn a spot on the Eagles, how much value is really Matt or is Andre Dillard going to have on the trade block? I mean, what teams – maybe someone takes a shot on him if there's a major injury, but I think it's kind of tricky. You might be taking a day 3 pick there. I mean, that might be a 5th rounder or later. You know,
I mean, he is only 24, right?
Dillard's he's 25ish. I think he was a little older when he came out. I think he's 25. Look real. But I mean, he's still young.
Somebody out there might
old.
feel
He's 25.
Him.
Yeah, he's 25.
You
know? So I mean, it's not like he's over the hill or anything. But the Eagles would like to have him work out, obviously, but no guarantee there. Driscoll, I think, is a lock. I think Herbig will be on this team for some time. I think those guys are locks as reserves who could potentially be starters. Those are probably your first up, come off the bench to play. Then the question really comes between, like, what do you do with guys? I mean, you got Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson's clearly going to be on the team, so now you're already up to 3 guys right there. That's 8. So then you got guys like, okay, what do you do with LaRaven Clark? What do you do with Matt Pryor? Pierschbacher, Lutria, like, you know what I mean? Like, my guess is the Eagles probably carry 9. They might carry 10 if there's an expansion of the roster, which I haven't heard anything definitive on that. I don't know that they're going to expand the rosters. So it might be a true 53-man this time.
Yeah, I know that kind of went away. You heard about it for a little bit and then it just kind of vanished. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that either. But that's the one thing I have to say though. Out of all those names you were talking about, that's one weakness that Dillard has that all the other guys don't. Or that's the one weakness, that Dillard has that all the other guys don't. Is if he loses that left tackle position, he's not versatile. He can't play anywhere else.
He's not. If he loses the left tackle, if he loses that battle, he becomes a project. Honestly.
Yeah. And
I wouldn't be shocked if one of these guys doesn't have a phantom injury. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be shocked. Because, I mean, if you look at it, I get what you're saying, is if he loses out, you're putting a lot of faith that he could be a swing tackle. Especially when you got LaRaven Clark, who maybe Dillard's better than LaRaven Clark. I don't know. But LaRaven Clark, he's like a Mulata. He's like a Pryor. He's a big dude. He's a big guy. I mean, he's 37-inch reach and arms. Like, it's a massive human being. Those 3 guys are monsters. Brandon Brooks, he's a monster. Like, then it becomes kind of tricky, right? I mean, then we got guys that are guard center types. I think Isaac Seumalo should probably be bounced inside as a center once Kelsey's gone. Looks like the Eagles are committed to Dickerson potentially being, which I'm fine with. Dickerson was pretty good at Alabama as a center, but I honestly think Dickerson would be a heck of a replacement for Brooks at right guard. Now, the challenge being they both have injury history, so that's really your struggle. But he's a very talented player. It's tough, man, because Driscoll. What do you do with Driscoll? Do you make Driscoll a right guard? Do you make him a right tackle? He can play center. He can play right guard. He can play right tackle. I think even Driscoll in a pinch, I think Driscoll could step in a very big emergency situation as a left tackle. I think he could do it for you if you had to. I look at the rest of the roster, though, man. Like I said, just count them out. You got Mulata, you got Seumalo, you got Kelsey, you got Brooks, you got Johnson as your 5, you got Herbig. Okay, then you got Driscoll, 7. Dickerson makes 8. That's 8 guys right there. There's 1 to 2 spots probably left. And it's kind of like, then you look at a guy like Dillard. If I put Dillard in there, what happens if I need a guard? Can Dillard be a guard? Jalen Williams seems to say, no, he's not a guard. When I talked to Jalen said, no, there are definitive traits that make a guy a guard. And he does not feel that Andre Dillard has the traits to bounce on the inside, to bounce around. And then, I look at other guys there. So then you get into Matt Pryor. Matt Pryor has at one point, Matt Pryor looked really good. I mean, 2019, when he stepped in for Brandon Brooks, I was pretty high on Matt Pryor. He looked really good in that role. And the crazy thing is I went from not being on Matt Pryor's train at all. I thought he was getting cut in 2019. I did not think he was going to make the roster. To him being on the roster, winning me over, to get me hyped about him in 2020, to make me go, I don't know what this dude is anymore. He played better as a tackle than he did a guard, and he wasn't great as a tackle. He was just serviceable. Like, Brett Thompson.
Do you regret giving up Vitae?
No, because of the money. The money wasn't right for the Eagles to keep Vaitai, but I think we're trying as hard as we can to find the next Vaitai, and I don't know that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll be honest with you. I know what the Eagles want. They want Andre Dillard to win this and be the left tackle. Then you got Johnson at right tackle. Then you got Driscoll, who can play guard, who can play tackle in a pinch. Then you got Mulata, who's big enough and he can play left or right tackle, so he could be your swing tackle. That's what they want, not what's going to happen. You know, honestly, anything can happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm saying it's unlikely. I mean,
Yeah.
Look,
No,
Mulata was said to be bad too. Mulata was said to be really bad last year in camp. You remember that? They said that he was bad in camp. And then he got into games and he's a little fundamentally flawed, no doubt about it, but the dude's such a monster of a human being that guys have a hard time getting around him. Nobody's bull rushing this guy.
Yeah, I know, and you make a valid point. I mean, remember last year too, we heard that JJ was being amazing in training camp and stuff, and they're like, he's showing up and showing out, and then he never touches the field. I'm not the very big JJ supporter. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, man. There's a lot that has to be unpacked with this team because I don't like the one thing I can say is Dillard. At least you can look to and say like, well, Stoutland has a track record of developing guys. Like that makes you a little bit more suspicious of Dillard than Stoutland, obviously.
Right.
But when I look at guys like JJ, that one's a little bit more difficult because route running was horrendous. I was one of the first people, and I got so much crap for this. I made a video following the 2019 season, and I pointed out all the flaws in JJ's route running. I was like, look, I'm a guy who's coached wide receivers before. This ain't how you're supposed to run this route, guys. This is bad. This is really bad. Yeah. And I was like pointing everything out. People were getting on me, saying I was being too harsh on them, all kinds of stuff. Only for me to be really proven right. And that was after I saw him have a good camp last year. And I said, well, maybe JJ is turning the page. No, he was more productive as a rookie than he was as a sophomore in Philly. I mean, that wasn't it. So, I mean, JJ's hard one because I don't know that the coaching and the scheme has ever matched what he does well. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's part of the problem with JJ. And I also felt like they said JJ lost weight last year. He looked bigger to me. He looked bigger to me last year than he did his rookie year. And he looks a little leaned out this year from what I saw. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think JJ could be a tall slot. I think JJ could be a boundary side receiver if he ever got it together. But the problem is I saw Fulgham put up big-time numbers in an NFL game consecutively. I've never seen JJ do that. And it's like, I don't know how many, it seems like he's not a special teams player. So if you can't win a starting job, it's a bit of a Dillard situation, right? Where Dillard, we can say that it's probably something personal with Dillard, maybe not so much coaching. With JJ, we can make an argument that maybe it's the coaching is playing a bigger role in this than people want to admit. But it's still the same thing, which is if he can't win the starting job and you're not even the first up off the bench, then why are you here? To run block on occasion? You don't play special teams. You don't really fit that role. So, I mean, he's another one to where I don't know, man. Like, it's now or never for JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I think this camp is huge for him. I'm not saying he's going to be cut. I mean, he's still a second-round pick from a couple of years ago. Like, but, they had, what was his name? Jarrett, the safety. They cut him after a year. They gave him 1 year. They brought him back next year, and they cut him because he didn't play well. So, I mean, was that Jaquan Jarrett or whatever? It's been a while now.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, it's one of those things, too, where it's like Howie, don't be scared about it. It's not like we're going to be mad. Because in all honesty, the way I look at it, man, is, he was a second-round pick. But he didn't deserve that second-round pick. He wasn't supposed to go to, like, probably the third, fourth round. Maybe even fifth. I don't know. But he was not supposed to go in the second. That was a wish and a prayer by Howie. And he just doesn't want to look stupid. But the fact is, you were drafted before DK. You have to do something. I mean...
Yeah. I think that they wanted a replacement for Alshon. They knew the situation with Alshon was on the horizon. I think that they didn't feel confident that where they picked again, they were going to have a shot at JJ. So I think that they took him higher than probably where a lot of people had a draftable grade on him. Now, I don't know that it's drastically higher. You know what I mean? I think it was still within the window, but I think that they took him knowing that there's a likelihood he would not be there when they came back around again. Now, the issue is that a lot of guys that were picked after him, including Fulgham, have outproduced him. You know, and Fulgham's not the only one. I mean, you know, there's a lot of dudes in that draft that outproduced him, man. Slayton, you know, I mean, he's got outproduced.
Man. No, he has, and I maybe that's why he gets a lot of flack from us, you know. But I mean, you know, the one thing that haunts me, and I even made fun of it like yesterday or the day before on one of my lives, is whenever Miles Sanders had that fumble and then he picks it up in the end zone and he cheers and stuff. I told them, I was like, I felt so bad for Miles because everyone was like patting him on the head. I was like, yeah, I get it. He recovered the fumble, but did you not see him run 80 yards?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I was like, that's your only touchdown, and it's like, dude, that's sad. Like to me, that image I'll never get rid of. But
yeah, I mean, hopefully he can turn it around. I mean, look, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside becoming what he was supposed to become would be really good news for the Eagles because he could make a tremendous red zone target. I don't know, man. I mean, I don't have video footage to see where he's at with his route running. You know, it's concerning. What's going on with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is very concerning. But, you know, there's not a lot to go off of this year, so I just have no clue where he's at other than draft notes, which, you know, look, he had a bit of a quiet day one, but day two, he did kind of come around. He made a couple of big plays. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping. I'm hoping that no matter what they do, they end up selecting the right guys at receiver. Because I think it can get a little murky after you get past Devontae Smith, after you get past Fulgham, after you get past Rager. I think, you know, Ward, I think, is still a serviceable receiver in this league. I think he's a guy, though, I think if you cut, I mean, look, he's still, to me, he's an NFL level, you know, caliber receiver, but he's not, I don't think he's special. You get past those guys, and it's kind of like, you know, you're talking about role players, you know? The real question is what they will do. What do you do if Fulgham never recovers? So say Devontae Smith and say Rager lives up to his, even if Rager lived up to his expectations, right? And Devontae Smith proves to be a really good receiver. I mean, at least you got something. I get it, but man, if Fulgham doesn't live up to it, JJ's not what you thought. You're still missing that boundary side receiver.
Yeah. No, you really are, man, and you know that's one reason why, you know, I get a lot of people kind of were asking for, you know, Julio Jones at one time. You know, like they were asking what should we, you know, I got it, but his age was the only reason why I said no to it. Like,
Yeah,
you know, if he was younger, say 28, I'd be all for it. But you know,
yeah, no,
I just feel we have so much talent on this wide receiver room that we don't know anything about yet. We need to see what we have first. That's a judgment call that's for next off season. You know what I mean?
yeah. So I mean, like for me, I don't know that you need that type of receiver. I mean, if Rager can prove to be an explosive guy, and if you know if Smith can turn out to be almost unstoppable, then Devontae Smith can turn out to be almost unstoppable. Then I think what you need from your boundary receiver is you need a complementary guy that can go out there and be a possession guy, right? So you need think like a Jericho Cottrell. You need like that type of receiver, a guy that can go move the chains. He's not flashy. He's not a big play guy. He's just a consistent conversion pickup. You know what I mean? Like, because you got the explosive guys, right? You got a Quez Watkins. You got a Hightower. You got a Devontae Smith. You've got a Jalen Rager. Those guys are all can hit the home run on. But you need that guy that can get in there and do the dirty work. I think, I think Ward Jr. can do the short intermediate stuff. I think he's good enough to do that, but he's not really an outside threat. That's the problem. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I mean, if he was an outside guy, he'd be perfect for it, but he's not really an outside guy. So I mean, to me, I think that's what the Eagles should be looking for, is just a guy that comes in, can get you 30, 40, catches in that role. Jason Avant, but could play outside. Jason Avant being, he was more of a slot guy, but Jason Avant, a Jericho Cotchery type that plays outside and is just a really good conversion type. I'm trying to think. There's the guy on the McCaffrey. Who was his name? It was a guy that played on like the Broncos like a long time ago. The Jets had one of these types too, one of these possession kind of conversion guys. That's what I think the offense needs if Smith and Rager
or Thomas. What's his name? What was his first name? Thomas. Was his last name? Demarius Thomas. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, Demarius Tyus type would be fine. I think Demarius Tyus is a little bit more explosive than I'm referring to. I'm talking about like 90s. I'm talking like 90s Denver, like 90s early 2000s Denver.
Gotcha.
I can't remember the guy's name anymore. It's too long now. But yeah, McCaffrey. Okay, yeah, I got you, Vic. But yeah, I mean, like if you can get that type of receiver, man, I think that the Eagles they'd be in a good position as long as Smith is the big weapon guy. Rager is your home run hitter where he just beats a team over the top with his speed and Rager is like a running back with the ball in his hands. He's got to get better, like division stuff last year. There was a couple times he really made some bad decisions with the ball in his hands. As strong and as big as he is, he's got to improve the vision part of it. But he's that type of player. So if you get Devontae Smith to be the high volume guy, Rager to be the holy crap, this dude just got over top of us, we're in trouble guy, then you just need that conversion guy. You just need that conversion guy. Then Sirianni to cook up some stuff, man. You need Sirianni to cook up some stuff for the running backs and the tight ends. And I think we'd be in a good position.
Yeah, no, I'm. And then all what's that?
So day one, one of the surprises in camp on day one was Sirianni was running some 2-back sets, something I've been wanting for a long time.
Yeah.
Now that could be something with the red zone because that was very specific to the red zone. So maybe he's got some 2-back sets for the red zone. I don't know if it's just particular to that area or if they're just practicing plays no matter what. But yeah, I mean, I was excited to hear that they were breaking out some 2-back sets.
Now, what I'm going to be intrigued to see is if they start running options, like QB options. Wouldn't that be awesome?
I'm pretty sure you'll see some zone read option stuff. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a staple of the offense, just because of what Jalen Hurts can do to a team. Like, that's part of the allure, right? Like, Jalen Hurts is way he can hurt you is if you can build in a true RPO system around a guy like Jalen Hurts that has some option-based stuff. Now you're guessing, like, is this a glance? Am I looking at a glance route, an RPO, or is this an option? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do I really got to be worried about this? Like, I think that's where he could get pretty dangerous as a player. But, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Nick's got to prove that he can call that kind of game. I don't know that he can. I mean, I think he can. He seems creative, but until we see it, on the field.
Mentally wise game aspect. Do you think he's ready, Hurts? You think he's going to be able to see this field clear and just go out with a fresh mind and just be him?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So I don't know yet because I can't see the footage of what's happening. So I don't know what the reads are. People have expressed concerns that especially day one, he was not seeing the field well. And a lot of that, like I said, guys, I said that can be attributed to just shaking off rust. It's really, it's not easy the first day of camp. Not only are you already shaking off rust, but then they close the windows in on you and they make you run red zone drills. That's a tough act day one. So I don't know what's going on there. There was some questions about his ability to see the field. A lot of people called him out for reluctance to throw across the middle last year. They said that he definitely preferred to throw outside. And that's probably because that's where a lot of your 1 to 2 read, where you're high-lowing a concept like that is going to occur. But also, you're talking about a guy that didn't have a traditional offseason, who was in a turmoil of a situation with the coaching in the front office and the star quarterback team, and stepping into that situation to where he kind of had a private coach, if you will, but not really. I mean, the guy that was kind of coaching him was kind of loosely based with the Eagles. Marty Morningwig, because I think he was working specifically with Marty, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know exactly what Marty's role was. I don't know what Marty was really working with him with. So, I mean, you heard what Nick said. Nick believes it's in the feet. Nick believes that the issue's in his feet. And there were a couple of plays where you could see on even some of the outside developing stuff, he was off time with his footwork. So there's a time where he needed to be 3-step hitch and get the ball out. In order to be 3-step hitch and get the ball out, you have to anticipate where the receiver is going to break the route off at. He wasn't there on the timing with it because he wasn't able to be in sync with the receivers to make that anticipation. So
Exactly.
he's off target. That's going to factor into your completion. It's going to make you seem like you're inaccurate. So, I mean, there's a lot of little stuff like that that's got to get cleaned up when it comes to like playing on time to the offense, playing with your like that stuff's got to get cleaned up, man. I mean, I like the coaching staff that's assembled. I like the fact that this young man is very, very open to coaching. So ultimately, he's the only one who holds the cards of whether or not he can make it successful. But I think the underlying stuff is there to feel somewhat confident, right? To say like, hey, man, like there's going to be some struggles for sure. But I think that he's got a shot. I mean,
yeah, for sure. He truly does. And that's one thing that I saw your video you brought out earlier today, and it's about the tight end, Tyree Jackson, right?
My video today, I think, was the free agent signings, but I did talk about Tyree Jackson yesterday and day 2's
yesterday. Okay, yeah. He actually really intrigues me. Can you talk a little bit about him?
Big guy, big massive guy. Former quarterback, University of Buffalo. Big arm. Ironically, leaves the University of Buffalo, gets put into camp with the Buffalo Bills. Was a big arm, talented guy, very athletic. Didn't work out as a quarterback. I think they began the process of transitioning him to a tight end. Massive guy. He's another one of these guys, 35-inch arms, reach, bigger than an 80-inch wingspan. I mean, big physical target. He's I think I saw that he was 6'6", 6'7" somewhere in that area, 250 pounds. Had a couple of concentration drops from what I heard, but still really turned heads. Like the athletic profile of this young man apparently really turned people's heads that, wow, he's a physically dominant player. And anytime there's a mismatch, like this guy's winning it. And I mean, look,
that sounds like.
Go ahead.
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. I can see that. Kyle Pitts is probably a little bit better of an athlete, but better route runner.
Yeah. No, I'm saying physical wise. Yeah, physical wise. He's 6'6", 250.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He might mess around and make this roster. I mean, I think that if the Eagles were to move Zach Ertz, I don't know if that's going to happen, but he can mess around and be your tight end 3. He could be TE3. I heard that Jason Kroom, though, had a pretty good day today, too, though. I heard he had a diving catch in the end zone. Kroom, he's a converted wide receiver to tight end. And, he's another one. He's a fascinating dude, man. Jason Kroom. I like this back end of the roster tight end guys that are kind of like these weird guys they have out there that they're really fun to learn about. But yeah, I like that kid a lot. Tyree is a very interesting guy to watch, man. Like the physical, abilities of this kid is something else.
Well, and welcome West, my partner in crime. That's kind of the question too I wanted to bring up. So you have some of these guys in our tight end room who are actually breaking out right now. Like Tyree, and you made the mention of who'd you say?
Kroom.
Yeah. So does that mean something bad for Skull? Does that mean something bad for Rodgers?
I doubt it. I doubt it. Rodgers is a much more polished player.
Okay.
Rodgers is another big guy, man. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. He's another big, massive human being. 80+ inch wingspan. He's another one of these big guys. He's, I won't say that he's a great, pass blocking, tight end or a run blocking tight end for that aspect, but he's serviceable in that role. I don't think that he's a huge playmaker per se, but man, he knows how to play the role. Like he's a really good tight end too, like kind of role player. But I mean, I don't know how many tight ends they're going to use in this offense. That's the other thing. Like the rumors is that Nick Sirianni wants to go back towards more 11-man personnel. So, that might be one of the cases to where maybe you only keep 3 tight ends. So no matter how good some of these guys' camps are, if Zach Ertz is on the roster, that could affect things.
So I gotta ask real quick because you just brought his name up, and we haven't ever talked before. How do you stand on that situation with him?
Zach Ertz, look, he's an all-time Eagles great, man. I got nothing bad to say about Zach Ertz. I don't think. Look, I hate the way it ended last year with Zach Ertz. Okay, I don't think he gave his full maximum effort. I think he felt a certain way about getting injured. He felt like he was laying it all out there for this team to make the playoffs. I think he took that kind of perspective that I laid it all out on the line for you guys. I was promised something that I don't feel like I received. And that's the thing is like, it's hard to get across to people is while you and I might look at the contract that was extended from Howie to Ertz and say like, realistically, that's a reasonable offer. Zach felt like I was supposed to be paid higher, and it's all in the beholder, it's in the beholder's eyes. And he felt a certain way about that. I would love to see Zach redeem himself and go out the right way in Philadelphia. But at the same time, I don't know how you keep Zach Ertz on this roster and adequately, judge Dallas Goedert. I don't know how you get, they've a lot of reporters have covered this. Who's off the field? Like who is the guy that's better than Zach Ertz in that receiving room? It seems unlikely to me. You know what I mean? Like I don't think you're going to get to a third receiver that's going to give you better value than Zach Ertz. So in that perspective of things, I think it makes a ton of sense to get rid of Zach Ertz because it's contrary to the concept of redoing this, rebuilding this all. But yeah, I mean, look, Zach Ertz is a guy that he had some very high moments here in Philadelphia, man.
Yeah, no, he did, and that. I always said I'm torn between this one because I love him as a player. I wish he could take on the Selleck role, be a mentor to Goddard, play tight end too, and just live with it. But we also do know as well, Ertz has a little ego, and there's nothing wrong with that. He kind of deserves to have it. He's worked hard for it, But from a position standpoint, from a future standpoint, I understand getting rid of him. I'm not mad of the situation, but it is a crappy situation. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think, honestly, in my opinion, I think the best thing to do here is to part ways. I do. As much as I would love the redemption story of Zach Ertz, as much as I would love to see Jalen Hurts work with a guy that you can depend upon to be in the right spot, 2 tight end offenses, man, it just you have to be really creative to make that work, man. It's not explosive normally. Those edge guys, those guys on the outside, those receivers have got to be explosive and make big plays in 12 personnel then. And it's just, we've been burnt so much by it. It just feels like to me as if it would send us in the wrong direction, personally. As much as I like Zach Ertz, but I don't know, man. I mean, I think a lot of this is posturing them. The Eagles trying to make it seem like they'll go into the season with Zach Ertz. And I think even if they do go into the season with Zach Ertz, it's going to be that type of show, the crap show, because, ultimately what's going to happen here is you're going to have a tight end that is going to have a media circus around him all the way up to the trade deadline with all the rumors, all the speculation that he's going to get dealt to this team or that team. And I just think that look, maybe you get better value and you're willing to put up with it. Sure. But it could take a bad turn.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I've always honestly thought that he's trying to be clever here and pull a Sam Bradford trade.
Yeah.
Hold off till the last minute and pray to God like Kittle or Waller or one of these big, Kels or one of these other big tight ends go down. He can be like, hey, I got your ticket right here, but I don't know if I want to chance that. Like you said, is it worth it? Because in a way, you owe it to Zach for him to know where he's going to play next year, and you owe it to Goddard for him to know his role on this team. No one's
Yeah.
going to get anywhere if they don't know their position. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Absolutely. Vic, I would take Chandler Jones for Zach Ertz right now. Like, I mean, no doubt about it. I would take Chandler Jones for Zach Ertz. I'd even give up value, even though he's 31 and Ertz is 31. I'd give him a 7th round pick and Zach Ertz to get Chandler Jones. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can make the argument, though. I could see other people's points on that one, though. Like, do we need another 30-some-year-old pass rusher, though? Don't we need youth? Get the young guys in. I get that part of it, but Chandler Jones is pretty good, to be honest.
Well, I made the comment. Could we give up Barnett for him? I made that like 2 or 3 days ago. Give up Barnett and I don't know, like what would you say? A second, third, whatever.
I would think we would need compensation in return for Barnett for Chandler Jones, honestly, because
okay.
you're talking about a 24, 25-year-old pass rusher
Or 31.
in Barnett. Yes, I think that they would have to give us value on that one. I don't think it'd be great value, because obviously Chandler Jones is a good football player. I mean, he's more established than Barnett is, but Barnett's obviously young pass rushers are at a premium. So, I mean, look what Ngakoue and what happened there and how much. I was shocked at that one, man. Who knows, man. I thought they would get a bigger return for Ngakoue than they got the Jags.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And hey, how about you made the video on Obi? I actually thought that whole scenario is actually quite funny because I always thought that Obi was on this team the entire time. I did because at one point I thought down the road here I saw a while back that we were going to sign him or he was close to being signed, so I just took it. And then I saw in that one video with JG mic'd up, he was in there for like rookie camp, and I just took it like he was just on this team. So in the end, he's on this team, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So, I heard you talking about him. This kid is 6'4". He is a freak athlete. Explain his game a little bit to me for them because I'm not that familiar with him, but I know he could definitely be a threat if used properly.
Sure, strong. He's a strong safety. That's what he really is. He is a gap filler, meaning this guy loves contact. He loves to hit. I put a little highlight clip in my video of him actually sticking Greg Ward Jr. in a college game. He's a very athletically gifted guy. He's a guy that a lot of people love the idea of putting over a tight end because he's one of the very few defenders that you can put over a tight end that's probably not going to give up a lot in the height or the reach, the wingspan. He's going to be pretty much right there with him. So, I mean, he's versatile like that. Problem is, though, he's had opportunities. And for all the athletic gifts that this young man has possessed, he has not found a home. And, it's hard to say. It's hard to say why it's happening. But when you look at this young man, like the underlying data on the young man and what he could be, it makes you excited. But the thing is that you're coming into camp. His first camp day was, July 30th. 3 days in. And it's like, I mean, they're already preparing a future where you weren't a part of the team. You got a lot of ground to make up. You know what I mean? You got to make a ton of ground up here. So he's going to have to basically to prove to guys that he's the man, basically. Like, he's got to prove that he's clearly better than Epps. He's clearly better than, you know what I mean? I would say even Kevon Wallace, he needs to prove to be ahead of Kevon Wallace. He needs to prove to be ahead of Epps. He needs to be approved to be ahead of Adams, the other safety we signed. Like, he needs to show that he's here. He's a camp body, but as soon as you got him on the field, it became very apparent that he's just different physically than those guys are. So, I mean, it'd be interesting. I mean, it'll be an interesting mix to see because he's got an uphill battle to make the team. But you know what? Say the Patriots come here, and I think it's the Jets is the other team I think is coming in, and he starts to shine. Say he shines in those team drills. Then all of a sudden the conversation changes.
No, and you know that's something too. Like I actually have Kayvon being my breakout player this year for our defense. You know, I'm not sure if Rodney McLeod is going to be ready week 1, and even if he's close to being ready or he says he's ready, I have no desire to rush him back. You know, he could be a vital part to this defense. So you know, and plus we need to see what Kayvon has. You know, so. Sure. At that point, don't rush him back. Let's start Kayvon, see if he can handle it. If the kid can handle it, you know, rotate him. But, you know, I really believe this is going to be I believe this is going to have to, you know, be his year because that's definitely, you know, what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, like, Kevon Wallace, he's a hard one to put your finger on because, look, Brian Dawkins was high on him. Brian Dawkins loved this kid. You know, of course, Brian Dawkins a Clemson guy. So, you know what I mean? Is he just speaking up for his own, you know, part of the, you know, the alumni? I don't know. But what I can say is that we are in a weird situation to where you got, you know, a young guy that kind of came out of that Minnesota system, but he got cut in that system too. That's the thing in Epps. Epps got cut. Sitting here with Jim. He's athletic. I mean, Epps is athletic. That's kind of the one misnomer about him. He's very athletic, but I don't trust Epps' eyes. There's something about Epps' eyes in coverage that doesn't seem right to me. His eye discipline's not there for me. And then when I look at a guy like Adams, I just don't know much about Adams. He had a role in the Giants for a couple of years. Had a role in Tampa Bay before last year, but then last year, the year they win the Super Bowl, he really played no role. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Adams. So then that really leaves Obi. I mean, now there's the other young kid, Graylin Arnold, who I think Graylin Arnold would be better suited to be a nickel, honestly. But with them bringing in Josiah Scott, to get to Vic's question here, Josiah Scott seems to have that backup role there locked up. So, you know, even Graylin Arnold, like, he's a guy I think is pretty good. I don't know that he has a role and a spot on this team unless he's just a really good special teams player. So, you know, that's the thing. Can Obi play special teams? Can he do the things that would make sense for a reserve back, right? That could have a role as being a very big physical guy. So you have a small little role you could play in the defense, but you're mostly that special teams contributor guy. You know, could you be that? And that's what we'll have to see, because special teams is a bigger component to that than what I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah, I know. Listen, man, I hate this because I've been waiting so long to do this. My daughter ended up calling 911.
Oh, geez.
So now I got a state trooper coming to my house because she did that. Why, I have no idea. But so I actually have to cut this real short, man, which sucks because I had so much to talk about. But yeah, I do appreciate you coming on, and I hope you can come on again sometime here soon so we can finish this up because, you know, there's a lot of things I wanted to get into here yet, so that sucks. But kids, what can you do? You know,
It's no problem, man. We can do a part 2. It's no big deal. I appreciate you having me on. Man.
Thank you, my guy, and definitely, you know, go like, subscribe to my channel. Like I said, at 200 subs, going to be giving away a vintage Eagles blanket, so definitely get in the drawing while you still can. I apologize for the short stream here. I got to get going, but thank you for tuning in. Let's make YouTube go green. Until next time, peace out.
Later, guys.